Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. If you've been keeping an eye on crime news, and if you live in the US, there's a very good chance in your local area you've been hearing about smash and grabs, almost a new type of variation on what used to be the flash mob. For anyone that doesn't remember, flash mobs started, I feel like around the year 2000 or so, once social media really started giving people a way to connect with more people that shared interests. I might have personally been in a flash mob back then, dancing to a Michael Jackson song at Universal City Walk at one point. It was kind of a fun thing, an interesting social thing to happen if you were a part of one, or if you actually caught on or witnessed one. But it seems like that same mechanism is being used now for crime. And we know that it's been tough. It's been a tough few years when it comes to people keeping their jobs initially. And now we've got a lot of people that don't seem to want to go back to work necessarily. Is that all playing into this? What is the mechanism for driving this? What are the companies doing to try to deal with this? We're going to cover all of that here. Let's go ahead and get started by jumping to the screen share and looking at a few articles together. This one from the Daily Herald. Not new, but more brazen. What's behind recent smash and grab robbery trend? It was a routine Wednesday afternoon at the Louis Vuitton store in Oak Brook Center. This is in Illinois. Shoppers examined pricey purses and other merchandise. That changed when 14 people suddenly burst through the door, pushing past a security worker and grabbing items left and right. Scared shoppers and salespeople fled to the back. All told, the thieves stole an estimated $120,000 in merchandise in a matter of minutes on November 17th. That is just one of many occurrences, and it's almost like once the news kind of broke that this was a mechanism, it started spreading across the country. Here's another instance. 6 people robbed an Ulta Beauty store in Oak Brook. Mobs hit the Louis Vuitton store in Northbrook twice this fall. One time they made off with $66,000 in items, and another time $100,000 in items. We're talking serious amounts of money being stole in this mechanism. T-Mobile stores, they also note, hit by this as well. I know out here in Minnesota, I heard of a few Best Buys that had this same thing happen. Christopher McGorty, founder and president of the Boston-based National Anti-Organized, that's a weird name, isn't it? Anti-Organized Retail Crime Association. It took me a minute, guys. I would probably change that name up if this was my organization. I would say the National Organized Retail Anti-Crime Association, but I don't know. Maybe the author of this article is having a little laugh on us. National Anti-Organized Retail Crime Association. That can't be right. Said several factors are influencing the rise in organized retail thefts. Oh, I see. So they want to be anti-organized retail crime. Like all of that is one. It's not a good name. But what are one of these several factors that are influencing the rise in organized retail thefts? They're saying at the top of the list are states and prosecutors raising the amount that can be stolen before a thief faces a felony charge. Although a theft of over $300 can be charged as a felony in Illinois, which, by the way, think of one of these happening at a Best Buy or a Louis Vuitton. I'm pretty sure if you leave with one item, you're going to breach that $300 threshold. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office in 2016 raised its felony threshold to $1,000. So they're saying criminals are aware of that, and they know as long as they stay within that threshold, they'll only get hit with a misdemeanor if they get caught. It just, I don't know. The information doesn't seem to parallel very well with the amounts that we're being told from the retailers that are being taken. I mean, if you're talking about 14 people that made off with $120,000 with, I mean, that's almost $10,000 per. So I don't know. I don't know that that's really a factor in this. I think there might be other factors. I think one is that right now the norm is being able to wear a mask, and effectively masks can make great disguises. So I think there is a natural thing that they might be recognizing in that about, hey, I can walk around masked, even if there's cameras that are picking me up on my way walking there, when I'm actually conducting the robbery, after I'm leaving, they're not going to be able to tell who I am because literally most of my face is covered. I think that's certainly playing into things, but let's go ahead and continue with some more information here. How's this happening? Over at sfist.com, Louis Vuitton smash and grab was coordinated on Snapchat. This is what the investigators think. The gang of thieves in the now infamous November 20th Union Square flash mob. So this is a different one. Before we were talking about Illinois. Now we're talking about Northern California. They believe that the mob apparently didn't know each other. The ideal member of a flash mob shoplifting gang may be one who doesn't know that they're part of a flash mob shoplifting gang. I don't know what's going on with the writing in today's articles, guys. I think that's kind of silly. They certainly know that they're part of a flash mob shoplifting gang. I mean, how can you not know that? You see a message somewhere and someone says, hey, go rob this place at 2:00. You think you're the only one and you're going to go do that? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But this next part does. They probably don't know anyone else in the gang. And because of that, they can't testify against other people or the people that are organizing this because they don't know who those people are. That certainly could be true. I mean, effectively, if you're thinking about this being, social media driven, it could be as simple as people saying, yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. Hey guys, once we have 12 of us agree to do this, we know we're good to go. We need 3 more people. We're almost there. You could run it almost like a campaign to get the group together. And of course, these points are very valid. These people don't have to know each other at all. The Hill reports that the Union Square heist, plus several other similar recent jobs, were organized on the app Snapchat. They say that organized crime is particularly pleased with Snapchat as a tool because of the anonymity and disappearing messages that it offers. I'm not really familiar with Snapchat. I didn't know that was a particular feature of it. I've just never used it. I think there's all kinds of other tools that you could use in that same way. But the disappearing messages, that's pretty interesting. I'd be curious, just kind of, coming from a former IT background, I'd be very curious if Snapchat doesn't have backups of its own services. Even if the messages actually disappear from the platform, from what you could see on the platform, I would think it's highly likely that there's some tape. I don't think backups are done on tape anymore. That's showing how old my IT skills are. I highly think that there's some data somewhere that could be resurrected to show that type of communication. But when you're talking about a platform like that and you have no organizing points, like how do you figure out whose account to look for? Like how do you go to a judge to get a warrant and say, hey, we need this username? Like you don't have a username unless perhaps if you do make some arrests. And I know a lot of the look of this is that people are just clearly getting away with this. There are several instances where people are actually being arrested and prosecuted for this as well. Perhaps in one of those prosecutions, you are able to get someone to say, oh, it was an account named XYZ. And then maybe at that point, you can go to a judge and say, hey, we need a warrant to get XYZ's information from Snapchat, something like that. Would it be as simple as that account leading directly to the person? I don't think so, because anyone that signs up for an account where they know they're going to do things like that, they're going to use a bunch of bum information. But does someone out there have the skills, if they have the right type of data provided to them, to try to trace that back to who the real person is? There might be a shot at that. Outside of that, I think it's really more about finding that person's messaging. Is it something they're doing regularly? Can you kind of catch on to where the next one's going to happen? That's kind of a big challenge that I'm seeing that these articles are relaying, is really the timing of this type of crime. You think of the term flash mob, it sounds like something that happens instantly. And that's what it looks like. In effect, it's not. It's been planned. It's something that could be planned days or even weeks in advance. But to the people experiencing it, it looks like it just happens in an instant. So for security personnel that are working at these stores, all of a sudden you see 14 people rushing your way. Even if you're on the phone, you could be on the phone with 911 already, explaining to the operator what's happening, asking them to dispatch police, that getting radioed over, police arriving. And these instances are very confined. It seems like they're happening in a really tight time frame. Could just be a matter of a few minutes that this robbery is actually taking place. The police getting to the scene really seems to be part of the challenge in all of this. It's just the speed of it is too fast. Let's continue over at CNN.com. Famous LA shopping center adds barbed wire-like fence to deter smash and grab. So now we're going to start talking a little bit about what some of the retail establishments are trying to do here. The shopping center they're talking about is the Grove. And for anyone that's lived in LA, you're probably familiar with the Grove. A bunch of good reasons to go there. I've been there several times. It's a famous open-air shopping complex in Los Angeles, and they've added a high coil fence barrier that resembles barbed wire. Obviously, it doesn't have barbs on it, but they put them up at the property's entrances and exits. Management added the, quote, tangled tape coil fencing, which is made from a custom aluminum and steel mesh ahead of Thanksgiving weekend. The fencing is installed nightly after the mall closes and removed before it opens. And here you can see a picture of it. This isn't the greatest picture of it. It's weird because it almost looks like it has like a rebar type look to it. Here we go. But there's not barbs in it. So what does it do effectively? The coil wire is a reasonably new technology in retail crime prevention, said Mike Lamb, former vice president of asset protection and safety at Walmart, Home Depot, and Kroger. It looks like it's designed to not cause injury, but it can tangle a person in it and slow down someone who's trying to get away quickly. So obviously they're kind of recognizing that gap that I was talking about. Law enforcement takes a certain amount of time to respond. What can you do with that? Possibly, if you're slowing people down, you're going to get a better window for actually getting some type of capture there. And it looks interesting to me. I imagine it probably has some give, but you can see there's all these kind of interlocked hoops and coils. How would you get through that, especially if you're carrying something substantial like, a television or something of that size? I imagine it could be extremely tough. I don't know that it actually snares you per se, and I'm a bit concerned just about people mitigating it by if you've got your buddy waiting in a car on the other side of this, you throw a box over to him, something like that. I don't know. But I do like the aspect that this is something they roll out at night. They kind of wrap it up during the day. So it's not like this big obvious message to people that are just going there to enjoy the center or do some shopping about, hey, we've got a big serious crime problem that's going on right now. But they kind of do. Something else that they're doing there, they have a special ballistic film coating the exterior and interior facing windows. The Grove is built like almost like there's this big center in the middle, and then there's buildings that kind of are on the perimeter. So you've got some shops that have windows that are actually facing the street. They're not facing just the center of the Grove, let's say. So obviously with this type of robbery, you've got big concerns there, because if they smash through those windows, they don't have to deal with that coil at all. They're just going right out to the street from that point. So they're using a special type of film coating, and that helps fortify the glass in the event of a smash and grab type of crime. They talk about one example here where that seemed to slow someone down enough that they were able to get them arrested as well. Over at KTSM, El Paso police are actually releasing tips. Some of these kind of basic for anyone that's worked in retail. I'm sure many of you are going to be shaking your head when you're hearing these, like, yeah, of course. Use a video surveillance system that has both overt and concealed cameras. Post signs announcing that you have a surveillance system recording images 24 hours a day with footage monitored and stored off-site. It's kind of an obvious. It's something that I think a lot of these establishments already do. Evaluate placement of cameras for best vantage points most likely to capture quality picture video images. I think that's a good note because it seems like, at least for the cases we look into, sometimes we get footage from cameras and it's like, wow, that's really not helpful. Like that was a terrible angle. Other times they have very good angles. But especially with the norm now being that people can wear masks wherever they go, even inside, that isn't always as helpful. But evaluating placement of cameras, I think for some of these businesses might be something to kind of reconsider as well. Especially, some of these buildings are really big inside or really tall, and then you can see they've got these camera domes kind of up on the ceiling. Is that helpful for this kind of thing? I don't know. Cameras are so cheap nowadays. Like, I'd be lining the entrances and exits with like eye level, cameras. And I know you want to put them in a place where they can't be manipulated, but if they're hidden, like if you've got them literally hidden in a door frame for every entrance and exit, you're going to get a really good shot of that person. Place high value or easily concealable products away from entrances or exits. Consider installing roll down cages or gates, which can be quickly deployed. I kind of don't like the use there. I get the roll down gates, but quickly deployed. I think they're assuming more of a looting situation. Like, someone breaks a window, they run and grab a TV. There's 20 people that notice that's happening, and all of a sudden they come running towards a store. You hit a button and a gate drops. What I'm worried about is 4 of them are inside, you hit a button and the gate drops, and you're the only person that's in there with them, or your staff is the only person that's in there with them. Seems like that could potentially take a bad situation and make it a little worse. But they also mentioned burglary resistant glass or maybe a coating like they're using at the Grove. Have a visible employee presence on the sales floor at all times and acknowledge individuals entering when practical. Never engage an offender in a confrontation. It's funny they say that after saying, hit that roll down gate, but I don't think they meant or didn't think about the aspect of potentially catching them in there with you. And outside of that, several of the big retailers, they're all getting together and they are asking Congress to help. How can Congress help with this? I mean, we're talking about it. Seems like the big gap is really getting law enforcement there in time. Well, we did mention that thing earlier about the levels that are being set for felony charges. Maybe some of those are a little too low. 20 major retailers said enough is enough, and they're calling on congressional leaders to do something about people stealing items from their stores and then selling them online. So they're attacking kind of the end point. Where does it go after this? You have a flash mob that shows up at a Louis Vuitton. They steal a bunch of stuff. Well, what happens to it then? They go to Craigslist. They put it on eBay. So they're looking to kind of cap off that end point. Some of the top executives in the coalition are from CVS, Best Buy, and Nordstrom. In recent months, House and Senate members introduced versions of legislation which seek to fight the sale of stolen and counterfeit products sold online by increasing transparency. What exactly does that mean? How do you increase transparency on that? This legislation, backed by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, is advocating for online retail marketplaces, Craigslist, eBay, to confirm the identities of high-volume third-party sellers. I don't think this does it. I think this mentality, if you really look at the basis of flash mobs as being a component of this, I don't think you have one guy that's traveling from San Francisco and then he's going out to Illinois and then he's coming out to Minnesota and he's doing all these. That's not how this is working. This is people that are taking advantage of a situation. They see that it's coming up on some localized app of theirs. Something in them gets hooked and they say, I want to be a part of that, and they go do it. Maybe they steal 5 items. What's the most that you can carry out? They're not, driving a truck in there. And then if they go and turn around and put that on some online retail marketplace, you're not going to find it. You're just not going to find it. It almost sounds to me like they're kind of hitting a different thing. Really, that sounds like it's aimed more at the counterfeit market than the smash and grab stolen market. But that's kind of just what I'm thinking looking at all this. Some say this will help prevent people from selling stolen goods online. The various retail executives endorsed the bill, saying it should make it harder for criminals to hide behind fake screen names while evading law enforcement. It's also a privacy nightmare. We see we see things like this kind of come up, and once the privacy issues are raised, it seems like they retract very quickly and very harshly. So I don't know that that's really the fix for this. I like the thought of thinking about where the end game is for that type of stuff. But if you start busting them online, then they're just going to roll back to the process that predated that. Guys selling them out of the back of a truck, contacting friends, or moving the marketplace. All of a sudden, maybe, if I had 10 items, okay, well, I'm going to go to Facebook. I'm going to put 3 there. I'm going to go to Craigslist. I'm going to put 3 there. It's just, I don't think that's the fix for this. And ultimately, what's concerning, getting here to the end of the video, is I don't feel like there's a great fix for this. Outside of, the only thing that really struck me was I went to Las Vegas earlier this year, and it was the weekend when they were reinforcing their indoor masks. And we went and did some shopping, and all of the stores there were severely limiting how many people could be in the store, like severely. Like a store might only have 10 customers in it at a time, but there was a line out in front of the store. And one single point of entry, one single point of exit. So when I think about this type of thing happening with that type of experience that I had, would it be extremely difficult for a flash mob to kind of break through that type of mechanism? I think so. All of a sudden, because you've got one point of entry. I mean, if you can really secure that door and make sure that you're only letting a few customers in at a time, that might help mitigate some of it, but not if you have 20 people show up and they decide they're breaking down the windows and they're running in through the windows. I mean, how do you stop that? So yeah, I don't know, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Please let me know, are you hearing of better ideas around this? Do you have any, not experience conducting this, I hope, but have you been a witness to any of this, or are you hearing some conversations maybe in your local neighborhoods about how things like this can be addressed? Let's talk about that in the comments. I hope you guys stay safe. This is shopping season. I certainly wouldn't want to be at one of these locations when something like this is going on. I imagine it's terrifying for the people that are involved in that. So please just be extra diligent, stay safe, and I'll be back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Searchlight for you guys right here on the Lord and Arts channel.